So today I have another thing to rant about, and this is going to be about some of the stuff I see about Korea on Quora. I've made a video about some of the Korean related answers on Quora before, and most of that is about Chinese people posting about Koreans on Quora about things that are mostly false or distorted about Koreans. And this is really annoying to me because a lot of these Chinese people have never been to Korea, they don't have any Korean friends, and yet they post all this slander about Koreans online, which is stupid. If you don't know any Koreans, if you've never been to Korea, why you post answers about Korea when you obviously don't know much about them? Like, these Chinese people purport to know a lot about Korea, but all their information is actually misinformation that they found by basically rumors that they just saw posted online, or they had maybe a few like screenshots of some extreme Koreans that they saw online, and then they generalize that to all Koreans. So that's stupid. Like, it's not, it's biased, right? That's not the truth. And it's there's a question that was asked: why do Korean ultranationalists hate China, Chinese people? Again, I've never seen, I wouldn't say never, but I haven't seen that many Korean ultranationalists. Like, they're just not that many compared to the amount of Chinese ultranationalists. And this makes sense because there's just way more Chinese than Koreans, right? So you're not going to see as many Korean ultranationalists online as Chinese ultranationalists. I mean, sure, there are Korean ultranationalists, but they're a minority of the population. Chinese people make them seem like Korean nationalists are everywhere when that's not true, right? They're only like a small portion of the population. Like, in general, I would say nationalism, the ultra like far right extreme nationalists are always a minority of the population. So yeah, you just won't see that many of them online in Korea. And in China, you definitely see more of them because that's what the propaganda is like in China, right? They all have a lot of national pride. So it's not even just extreme right in Chinese culture, or right now in China. It's basically everyone in China that's very nationalistic. So you just see a lot of nationalistic Chinese online. So anyways, this is my answer. I said, I lived in Korea before. I have a lot of Korean friends. I haven't met any like really crazy Korean nationalists. But I have seen a lot of Chinese nationalists that have a lot to say about Korea. So, like, look at this comment here. Koreans were called Japs running dogs by Chinese during World War II because many Koreans joined the Japanese army. Inflicted, yes. So they blame, this is something to blame Korea for because Koreans were forced to be conscripted into the Japanese army because they were part of Japan at the time. So in Korea's colonial era, back in the 1910s to 1940s, Japan colonized Korea. So that means when Japan went to war in China, the Sino-Japanese War, Koreans were forced to fight against Chinese. And that's not Koreans' fault. Koreans were forced to fight Chinese. They didn't want to. They were forced to. And then Chinese people don't like Korea because they killed Chinese. Well, that's not their fault. They were forced to, right? They're conscripted in the Japanese army because they were part of Japan at the time. And then talk about the South Korean did to Vietnamese civilians and stuff like that. Well, that's not related to China at all. If anything, okay, I can understand that Vietnamese don't like Koreans, but what does that have to do with Chinese, right? So Koreans doing things to Vietnamese makes Chinese hate them? That doesn't make any sense, right? Why would China care about Vietnam? Anyways, this is what Japanese did to the Chinese. If you look at Unit 731, I'm not going to go there and show you this nasty stuff, but it's basically similar to what German scientists did to Holocaust people. Like, basically the Jews, they were forced to undergo like extremely immoral experiments during World War II, and the Japanese did the same to people they captured, like Chinese and Koreans as well. So anyways, whatever Koreans did is not as bad as what Japanese did, not even close. And for some reason, I don't see Chinese these days, they don't really hate Japan as much as Korea, which is really weird because the things that Japan did to them was way worse than whatever Koreans did to them, which was not much, I don't think. This I think I've already gone over in my other video. I did a previous video about this already. Like, all this is basically, I mean, come on. Like, a Korean boss forcing Chinese workers to kneel down to her like over 25 years ago, and you still bring that up, like, it's ridiculous. And you generalize that to all Koreans, it's so stupid. Right, and this guy's obviously biased against Korea. Like, okay, what kind of country is not going to talk about their history and heroic deeds that they did? If you go to China, you think they're not going to brag about their stuff, their history? Come on. And this stuff is about the whole kimchi thing, and then don't forget about the hanfu hanbok thing. Now I think this has gotten worse because the 2022 Olympics. There's all this controversy about in the 2022 Olympics they actually showed a woman wearing a hanbok and saying that's Chinese ethnic outfit, and Koreans got outraged because, oh no, hanbok is Korean, it's not Chinese. But actually I'm on Chinese side on that, because they were not actually saying that the hanbok is an ethnic Chinese outfit. They say that that's one of the many ethnicities in China, which Korea is one of the ethnicities in China officially, because there are Koreans living in China. So especially from my area, Manchuria. So I'm actually on China's side when it comes to when they say that about the hanbok hanfu thing. It's China's not trying to say that hanbok is a Han Chinese outfit. They're not, because it's not, right? Hanfu is from China, but hanbok is obviously Korean. But they're just saying that, oh, one of our ethnicities does wear hanbok, and Korean just happens to be one of the ethnicities of China, right? Which it is, because yeah, you have ethnic Koreans living in China. So I think that's just a misunderstanding. But this stuff, I've never met a Korean claiming Korea being the origin of China, or claim that Confucius is Korean. Never heard about that. Now, claim Chinese New Year is kind of dumb, because all the Asian countries, including like Vietnam, Japan, like all the Asian countries use the Lunar New Year. It's not just Korea. Claiming that Chinese written characters Korean heritage, that's never happened. I've never heard any Koreans say that. Like, Koreans know that they were using Chinese characters for a very long time, and that's why when King Sejong the Great took over, and then changed the alphabet to Hangul, yeah, that's why they wanted to make their own alphabet, because they knew that they were using Chinese written characters, so they wanted to change their own native alphabet, so they changed everything to Hangul now, which is a Korean native alphabet. And this is all the stuff that I've seen Chinese people say about Korea. So saying that that Korea is a U.S. colony or U.S. puppet state. How many times have I heard that from Chinese people? Oh yeah, look at this. Here's another answer I just got. Koreans don't have their own culture. Korea used to think that the pyramids belong to Korea. I've never met a Korean that said that thinks that. Sushi belong to Korea. Never heard a Korean that said that. Japanese anime belong to Korea. Never heard a Korean that said that. Christmas belong to Korea. Where did these guys pick these things from? They just pull it out of their heads or something like that? I've never heard this stuff said by Koreans. Like, how does this guy, I'm assuming he's Chinese, but how did this guy think that Koreans think this stuff? Like, has he ever talked to any Koreans? I've never heard this stuff from any Koreans. Now South Korea is stealing a lot of Chinese culture. What do you mean now? Chinese people have been complaining that Koreans stole their culture since, times immemorial. Even trying to tell the world that hanfu belongs to South Korea. That's not true. Koreans think that hanbok is South Korean, because it is. But hanfu? No. Hanfu is Chinese. I've never heard any Koreans say that hanfu is Korean. Koreans are really fun. Koreans don't know their history. Again, that's a lot of stuff you're assuming about Korea when you never talked to any Korean before, because I've never heard any Koreans say this stuff. Both Korea and China can speak Korean. Really? I didn't know that Chinese could speak Korean. The so-called national costume in South Korea is Chinese hanfu. No, it isn't. It's hanbok. What are you talking about? Hanbok is not Chinese hanfu. They're totally different. Like, if you guys don't know, hanfu and hanbok are like totally different. They don't look that similar actually at all. I mean, sure, they're not like, it's not like it's different as between like hanfu and kimono, for example. Kimono is also basically from hanfu, but it's very different. Sure, hanbok is closer to hanfu than kimono is, but it's still different. Anyways, I'll show you guys a picture. This is hanbok, this is hanfu, this is kimono, okay? Got it, guys? Yes. Hanfu is the one that, you could say that these kind of originated from hanfu because China was older than Korea and Japan history, right? Like, historically, China's the oldest out of all these, but they're not the same. It's just the same thing with the kimchi thing. Right? Kimchi is not pao cai. Pao cai and kimchi are completely different. So saying that hanbok and hanfu are the same thing is ridiculous. So Koreans never said that the national costume is Chinese hanfu, because hanfu and hanbok are totally different. And then Koreans, their country used to be attached to China. I don't know what that means. When was it attached to China? Okay, Koreans apply for World Heritage every year. So what? Koreans don't even know. Every year, 100 to 112 Koreans don't even know their own history. Korea's not as beautiful as you see on TV. Really? I highly doubt this guy has even been to Korea. Sportsmanship, stealing culture, disrespecting people, disgusting all over the world. Really? again, this guy is talking like he knows everything about Korea when he's never even been there. Or talked to him. Koreans are very selfish. They'll do whatever it takes. Korean companies like to squeeze foreigners. I highly doubt this guy has ever talked to any Koreans or lived in Korea. So, yeah. And then this is Chinese just made a movie. So like they kind of a lot of finger pointing going on about the 2022 Olympics about Koreans cheating at the speed skating stuff, and then Chinese people think that Koreans are dirty, so they keep making these movies. And Korea says Chinese athletes are the ones who are dirty. So there's basically a lot of finger pointing between Koreans and Chinese right now. Yeah, so Chinese call Koreans dirty, Koreans call Chinese dirty. Yeah, and Chinese actually go back to the 2002 World Cup, the soccer World Cup, and they say, oh, Koreans are dirty. So yeah, they've always said this about Korea. Yeah, like, oh, here we go. Chinese netizens claim Korean Hanbok's Chinese, call it South Korea a thief country. Yeah. Hanbok is different than hanfu. Like, that's all you have to know. It's the same thing as with the Pol Thai versus kimchi thing. Chinese people don't seem to understand that you can take inspiration from something and make it different, right? It doesn't mean it's the same. Like, if you think that kimchi and Pol Thai are the same, if you think that hanbok and hanfu are the same, that's basically like saying that America basically stole all its culture from Europe, right? Oh, hot dogs are not American; it's actually German. Or hamburgers are not American; it's actually German. Or a pizza, right? It's not American; it's actually Italian. So, like all these things, like people take things from influential cultures and they make it their own. Okay, Chinese people don't seem to understand this. They just think, oh, that's stealing. It's not stealing when you actually change it, right? If you change it enough to make it its own thing, that's not stealing. Stealing is if you take something and you don't change it at all. So, yeah. By the way, this is another controversy that happened in Korea, China. There's a lot of controversies that happen because also a lot of Chinese idols are part of Korean K-pop groups, like Wang Yiren from Everglow. So apparently what happened is like all the Korean members started kneeling, and then Yiren did not kneel and started dancing because she didn't want to follow, I guess, Korean culture. And then the people in China basically praised her for not following Korean culture, and then the Koreans got angry for her not following Korean culture. So I think like here's the thing. When you're in a country, I think, and you happen to be famous actually because you're in a group that's actually a K-pop group, right? If you're not in a K-pop group, you wouldn't actually be as famous, right? Yerin wouldn't be as famous. She's famous because she's in the K-pop group Everglow, and I think because of that, she's in Korea. So if you're in China, fine, do whatever you want. If you're in a Chinese pop group, do whatever you want. But you're in a K-pop group, you're in Korea, right? You're part of a Korean entity. So personally, like when I was in Korea, I follow Korean cultural customs. I think it's disrespectful not to, but that's like, imagine if foreigners came to China, didn't follow any Chinese cultural customs, right? Would Chinese people like be like, oh, okay, that's fine? I don't think so, right? They'll also be kind of saying, oh, you're disrespectful to Chinese culture, right? So now they're praising her for not like following Korean customs. Like, I think you should be respectful of the country you're in, but that's just me. Especially if you happen to be famous because of that country. Like, if it wasn't for Korea, you wouldn't be like as famous, right? So you should be respectful to that country. Honestly, that's just my opinion. Okay, here's another one. Look, this guy actually deleted his answer, of course. But there's been a lot of Korean hating answers by Chinese people. Here's another one. IRML are my initials. This guy is he posts a lot of Korean hating answers. Actually, I already screenshotted all this stuff. So, yeah, I don't like this guy's answers because they're all pretty ridiculous. They obviously very biased against Koreans. So, this one, as a Chinese person, I don't understand why Chinese people hate South Korea. Exactly. So let me go through. This guy, RML is my initials, obviously a pro-Chinese person that doesn't like Korea. So this is something that you'll see a lot of on Quora, is that you'll see a lot of Chinese people on Quora. They make a lot of assumptions about Koreans and Korea, and they generalize it to all of Koreans. They make a lot of assumptions, and I'm 99% sure these people have never been to Korea, and they never talked to any Korean people, and they don't have any Korean friends. See, I've lived in Korea, I have Korean friends, So I kind of know what I'm talking about. These people have all these ridiculous assumptions about Koreans, and I'm pretty sure they've never been to Korea, never talked to any Korean people. So, yes, I want to say that South Korea, this person's allegations that South Korea basically copied everything. Well, yeah, South Korea does have a history of copying things because a lot of this stuff is based off of Japan because they used to be a colony of Japan, and a lot of things are influenced from Chinese culture too because, well, China used to be the dominant culture in Asia, right? And ancient China used to be really popular. And the K-pop and K-drama stuff, they took that from Japanese pop, Western pop. This is pretty well known. And then look at this person's comment. He says, this person's obviously very biased against Koreans. He says, I used to know a few Koreans in high school. However, then I saw all these racist Koreans on the internet. Then I learned that they despise Chinese people, so I started to dislike Koreans. I did a little bit of digging and learned that many Koreans were naturally racist. Like, what the hell is this? So you knew a lot of Koreans in high school that didn't do anything to you. He says we were even friendly to another, so they never really said anything about Chinese. And then he saw some racist Koreans on the internet, and then he just generalized it to all Koreans. Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? Like, if you see like a few Koreans on the internet, doesn't mean they all hate Chinese people. And then he says, China did not invade Korea. The Japanese did invade China. There's no genocide. USA has been, okay, I don't care about the USA stuff. That's unrelated. But it's not true that China did not invade Korea. They did. They invaded Korea in 1950 when they helped North Korea invade South Korea. Also, ancient China has invaded ancient Korea many times. See, I can reference the Shilla-Tang War that happened between Shilla and Tang Dynasty, and the Qing invasion of Chosun, which also happened, and yeah, in the Korean War. So, and then he posted this one here as kind of proof that Koreans don't like China. And he says he basically just he cherry picks like all these like posters he finds, and then tries to generalize it to all Koreans. He said most Koreans actually don't have an opinion on rape of Nanjing at all. I don't think I've ever met any Koreans that have any kind of opinion on this. So just cherry picking one of these Korean guys' answers doesn't represent all Koreans. And then this guy is also kind of weird because South Koreans generally dislike Japan out of all nations because of the what they did to them when they were a colony, because of the comfort woman thing, which are like sex slaves. They massacred many Koreans. Koreans regularly boycott Japanese goods. This happens a lot. And he just cherry picks these kind of like odd Korean answers, which I don't really find many Koreans have. Like, many Koreans don't have an opinion on rape of Nanjing. And many Koreans dislike Japan. I mean, this is just it's a fact that a lot of Koreans, most Koreans actually don't like Japan. So, yeah, he's just cherry picking this thing. It's just Japan and South Korea aren't allies. That's ridiculous. And then now it used to be that Japan was South Korea's most disliked country, but now China overtook Japan because of the whole feud, between the kimchi, hanbok stuff. Now the Olympics as well. And yeah, I think the rest of this I just took from my other answer. But yeah, this is basically what this guy said. Oh yeah, this is another screenshot here from what that guy said. He said, this guy took a quote from a Korean American. Okay, so he took a quote from a Korean American who's speaking as kind of a view on, I'm guessing this person is actually a right-wing American. So that's not representative of a Korean from Korea. Just because someone who's Korean American has a view that is kind of really right-wing in America is not true in Korea, right? Like, yeah, this is a very American opinion. They steal our intellectual property, give us coronavirus. This is a right-wing American opinion, has nothing to do with the Koreans' opinions from Korea. And for this, pretty much all developed countries have a negative view on Chinese. It's not just Korea. Like, I mean, look at Australia, Sweden, Japan. I mean, really, they really hate China, So don't just single out South Korea. A lot of countries don't have a good view of China. Okay, and yeah, this is pretty much the same stuff I've talked about before. By the way, more of this stuff is just proof that Chinese like to say, oh, Korea's just a U.S. puppet state. Well, they're not totally a U.S. puppet state because they broke with the U.S. several times. They broke with the U.S. on the boycott, the Beijing Olympics. They don't. They're very neutral about the Hong Kong, Taiwan stuff, and they've spurned the U.S. before, because the U.S. asked for lots of money for the troops, and they've actually signed agreements with China. So it's totally not true that Korea's a U.S. puppet state because they broke with the U.S. several times before. So it's not like the U.S. tells Korea to do something and then Korea just does it. No, Korea's actually gone against the U.S. several times before. So that's just proof of that. So this is another thing I want to talk about is I've seen a lot of Korean men post online on Quora, and a lot of them don't like Korean women, and they have very negative views of Korean women. I'm not going to say all Korean guys are like this because I know, a lot of Korean guys who are my friends and in real life they're nice people, they're respectful to women, I think. But there are also a lot of guys that I see online that are basically misogynists. Like, they really hate women. And I've seen this in Korea a lot, actually. Like, a lot of Korean guys I talk to, they really don't don't have a good view on women's rights. And I think this is one of the reasons why in the recent election, the new president of Korea is basically, he's basically anti-women's rights. And I think that's because a good portion of Koreans online now, I think a good portion of like Korean men, actually, not every Korean man, but a good portion of Korean men, they have a negative view of feminism in Korea, and they have a negative view of women's rights in Korea. So I think that may be part of the reason. Look, one of these answers here, this was, how do South Korea, Japan, and China compare when it comes to women's rights? So this is by a Korean guy, and I highly disagreed with this answer. Like, this answer had, I think this answer had like 150 upvotes or something like, yeah, here we go, 157 upvotes on this answer here. And basically, he can only talk about Korea because he's never been to Japan and China, so he can't talk about Japan and China. And then he basically says, I can only talk about Korean point of view because I'm Korean and live in Korea. Well, Korean women seem pretty strong to me, and yeah, and Korean women are the strongest, or something like that. And I was like, what? You can't make that kind of judgment when you've never been to these other countries. Like, if you've only been in Korea, then how can you say that Korean women are the strongest, right? Obviously, if you haven't been to Japan and China, you can't say that. So, and then this other comment here by David Kim here, who, again, this is another example of a guy who doesn't like that the Ministry of Women's Rights. He doesn't like that, and that's why they elected a president who's going to abolish it, basically. And it says, anyways, South Korea has the strongest women out of all the East Asian countries, which is totally not true. Like, I highly disagree with these Korean guys because they've never been to China. Like, if anyone who has been to China knows that Chinese women are easily the strongest out of all the Asian women, right? So don't take an answer from a Korean guy about Korean women, okay? They're obviously going to be biased. Like, I think a good portion of Korean guys, they have little or no sympathy for their women. That's the thing. So I have to talk about a foreigner's perspective because I've been to Japan, I've been to China, and I lived in Korea. China has by far the best women's rights out of all these countries. So first of all, Chinese women have by far the highest percentage of female CEOs in Asia. So, I mean, just look at all the rich Asians in the world. Like, the vast majority of them are Chinese women, right? And that's not just because of the population, but because Chinese women are very ambitious. So they even exceeds the USA. So the proportion of Chinese CEOs who are female even exceeds the USA. So Japan and Korea, on the other hand, the female CEOs only make up 2% of the companies. So yeah, that's an example of the Chinese women's rights. Okay, China's way better gender equality is because of communism, of course. Mao Zedong, he had a belief that women hold up half the sky. It's a very famous type of slogan back then. So as a result, the women were treated the same as the men, dude, in the communist era. In the one-child policy, basically gave the women more power because they aborted more women because the men wanted to have more men, and the reason for that is because a lot of these people lived in the countryside, so they need men to do more work in the farm, right? And obviously, men can do more labor than women can. So that's why they board a lot of women. That ended up with a lot of more men in China than women. That means that the women have more power in the relationships because of supply and demand. So these days, Chinese guy have no chance of marrying if he doesn't have a house or car. I did this in a previous vlog with my friend. We talked about how a guy could buy a girl like what 99 iPhones and she still rejected him. Like, and the women there are in Chinese women are insanely picky. I mean, there's another story that women rejected the guy because he didn't like the cooking of his family. Like it's ridiculous, right? From Shanghai, of course. I've never seen this in Korea. I mean, Korean women are not nearly as picky as that, right? And Chinese women have generally greater career flexibility. The thing is, if you go to China, you can see a lot of women doing the same jobs as men. But in Korea, the men's jobs and women's jobs are very separate and distinct, right? So, good example, a lot of Chinese women want to be an entrepreneur, start their own business. But in Japan and Korea, one of their dream jobs is to be a flight attendant. A job that requires them to be like beautiful and subservient, right? But in China, that's not the case. Chinese women want to be like investors, business people. In Korea, this is just dominated by men, by guys. And there's not that many housewives in China. Whereas in Korea and Japan, you have a lot of women who just do nothing but stay home, take care of their babies. Chinese women don't really do that. Chinese women are basically as much workers as men are. So they're basically the financial head of the household. They manage the finances. So I think China is actually closest to a matriarchal society. Yeah, and that's not to even mention the fact that Korea has all these traditional ceremonies on Lunar New Year's and Chuseok, just Thanksgiving, where the women have to traditionally do everything. They prepare all the food and everything, and then there's a lot of female-only occupations in Korea, Japan. Like I said, in China, there's not that many female-only occupations. There's just stuff that can be done by both guys and girls. But yeah, I would say in China, like, it's pretty equal. It's pretty gender equal. But in Korea and Japan, there's a lot of stuff that's like female-only. Like you go to like, example, I think I talked to my girlfriend not that long ago about this. When you go to a hair salon, like most of the hairstylists are women in Korea, whereas in other countries, even here, U.S., Canada, in China, it can be both men and women, pretty equal. But in Korea, it's almost always young, beautiful girls who are the hairstylists. So that's very specific. Abortion is another one. It was only legalized in 2019 in Korea. That's 3 years ago. Abortion was illegal for over 3 decades in China, since the late 80s. So big difference there. Punishment for sexual assault and rape in Korea is just a few years. There's a lot of examples here. Right? The sex trafficking hub Sornet, the guy who made that only got a few years. All the 200,000 guys who were in the nth room Telegram scandal, they're not going to be punished at all. The spy camera epidemic, none of these guys are going to be punished. Yeah, the guy who was hosting the sexual porn site in Korea got less than 2 years in jail. John Junyoung, the guy who basically gang raped a girl who was a K-pop star, only got 2 years in jail. In China, if you gang rape a girl, you're dead, man. you're executed. But in Korea, you get 2 years in jail. I mean, come on, there's no comparison. Like, the laws against women in Korea are like so lenient because of sexual crimes. The men basically get away with any kind of sexual crime in Korea, but you won't get away with it in China. Plus, the women in China, they're not under as much pressure to put up on makeup, dress up as much. Of course, Korean and Japanese women always have to more pressure to make up or dress up. In Korea, Japan, the women actually do pay for some parts of the cost of dating or marriage. So I know my experience dating Korean girls, the girls usually pay for coffee at least, not just in China, the guy has to pay for everything. There's a dowry in China where the guy has to pay like a lot of money just to marry the girl. That doesn't exist in Korea and Japan. Also, the guy has to buy a house in China and pay for all of it. The girls, at least in Korea, I think has to pay for the furniture. So that's the big difference. So yeah, I think that women in China they have it way better than actually women in Korea and Japan. Another thing related to appearance, I guess, or social acceptance, is the tomboy in Korea and Japan. Basically, they're not very welcomed in their society, and Like even a girl with short hair in Korea, like I don't see that very often. Even if you have a girl with short hair in Korea, usually they're stigmatized. But China, you have girls with short hair everywhere. So yeah, in Taiwan as well. So almost all girls in Korea, you see almost all women, they're dressed up in a feminine way. They're wearing like skirts or dresses or high heels or something like that in Korea. China, like you see girls that dress just like guys. So very, very different. Goes to back even to the school uniforms. The school uniforms in China are the same for guys and girls. They're just tracksuits. But the school uniforms for girls in Korea have these really short skirts, right? Japan, same thing, right? You have the sailor uniforms, you have the plaid skirts and stuff in Korea and Japan. They have these really short skirts and stuff. Yeah, Chinese girls, they just wear the same school uniforms as guys. Just the track pants. It's very different. So yeah, these are basically the uniforms you'll see in Korea. These are the Korean school uniforms. Okay, this one is probably not. This one's like a K-pop or K-drama type of uniform. But these ones are actually the ones you will see in Korea, like this. Like these are actually like pictures of girls you'll see in Korea wearing this kind of outfits and uniforms. But China, they look like this, right? It's totally different. They just wear these tracksuits. So the girls actually wear the same uniforms as the guys do in China. Whereas, Korean girls wear very feminine uniforms. So that goes back to the appearance thing. Chinese women have much better maternity leave. So this is a women's rights thing. Chinese women have much better women's rights because they have much better maternity leave when they get pregnant. In Korea, if you get pregnant, you don't get that much time off at all. And you might even be fired. I know it's illegal, but it still happens in Korea. Yeah, in Korea, like, I've never seen this in Korea, but I've seen guys crying and begging on their knees and being slapped and, like, basically abused by their girlfriends in China. I've never seen that in Korea. In Korea, it's basically the opposite. I have seen guys abusing girls in Korea, but I'm not seeing the opposite. Like, but in China, you see the opposite. You see girls abusing guys. It's true. If you go to China, you see girls slapping the guys up. You never see that in Korea. Valentine's Day and White Day, that exists in Japan. In Korea, that doesn't exist in China. In China, it's only the guys buying girls gifts. So yeah, and in this stuff, actually, I want to talk about, this is my other answer here, the feminism stuff. So I do think Korea needs feminism maybe more than any other Asian country. Actually, I wouldn't say that, and more than any other East Asian country. Like, it's one of the most gender unequal because of Confucianism, partly because Confucianism inherently is kind of gender unequal. So women have to basically do the traditional stuff in Korea. They have to take care of the baby, they have to take care of the husband, they got to cook, they got to care for their husband's parents, they got to prepare the food and stuff like that. So I think they require more feminism. And yeah, basically this whole thing about this guy's original answer about, oh, Korean has the strongest women and stuff like that is totally bullshit. Obviously, Chinese women are stronger. Anyone who has been to China and goes to Korea can see that Chinese women are stronger. It's not even close. All right, so yeah, there's a lot of examples of the misogyny that exists in Korea, right? First of all, the female suicide rates are like the highest in the world in Korea, in developed countries, I should say. Like, it's crazy how many young girls suicide in Korea. I mean, look, you have a lot of examples of cyberbullying by, this girl was basically called a feminist. I don't think she was even a feminist, but she was bullied by incels, basically. A lot of incels and misogynists in Korea. So she killed herself. You have a lot of horrific crimes taking place from, men that are basically misogynists and killing girls. These, you have a lot of like really nasty crimes, the guys killing their girlfriends and stuff like that. And look at this, at least 97 women killed by husbands and boyfriends per year. That's crazy, right? Yeah, this is a problem that Korean society basically just ignores. This is a funny one. It's like, women who bit off part of a man's tongue after forced kiss. That means he tried to sexually assault her. And she was going to get punished for that. And says, oh, she won't be prosecuted. Of course she shouldn't be prosecuted. She's acting in self-defense. The guy was trying to forcing her kiss. That's a sexual assault, right? So imagine you're acting self-defense against sexual assault and you're going to be prosecuted for it. I mean, come on. Spy cam is a huge issue in Korea. A lot of hidden cameras everywhere in hotels, motels, and Airbnbs, bathrooms, stuff like that, public bathrooms. It's called mocha. It's a really big thing. I guess a lot of these really perverted guys do this. Again, more murders for the girlfriends, stuff like that. Stalking, it happens a lot in Korea. The guys never go punished. There's a lot of cases here, gang rapes, stuff like that, where the guys basically go unpunished. This is obviously a misogynist case. I heard about this guy who murdered a girl, just a random girl, in a public restroom because he hated women. That's basically misogyny. When Western people talk about misogyny, it's not really misogyny. That's one I want to get clear. I don't stick up for Western feminism because I think Westerners don't really need feminism. Western countries, the women are already strong. They're already independent. They don't really need feminism, but Korea actually does need it. And this is literally misogyny, right? It's a guy who hates women. Not the misogyny that Westerners talk about, right? When American women talk about, oh, he's a misogynist and stuff like that, like they talk about, oh, James Bond is a misogynist and stuff like that. They're not misogynist. They're playboys. Playboys aren't misogynists. Playboys love women. They don't hate women. So when Western people use misogynist, is not the right way. They don't actually hate women. Like, they're talking about guys who love to sleep with women, and they think, oh, he's a misogynist. That's not a misogynist, okay? Those are guys who actually love being with women. Now, objectifying, that's one thing, but that's not misogyny. This is literally misogynist. Like killing a girl because she's a woman. Because he hates women. That's misogyny. So let's get that straight. Intune case, we talked about this, is a massive Telegram group. A lot of guys. 200,000 guys never got punished for this. It's basically the children getting like sexually assaulted or raped and stuff like that. It's crazy. All this, like even foreigner girls. All these foreigner girls, they go to Korea and they have this fantasy about the BTS stuff, about Korean guys being like their oppas, their dream oppas and stuff like that, and they just go and they get drugged and they get date raped and stuff like that. Oh man, I mean, this is what happens in Korea. Like, you have a lot of guys who have they know that they're wanted by foreigner women because Korean guys are really wanted these days because of the K-drama, K-pop stuff. But then they can take advantage of girls because of that. So yeah, and there's a lot of backlash against Korean feminism, which just leads to men to hate them even more. So there's an example of that. Over half of Koreans support abolishing gender ministry. Of course, most of them guys. This is an example of another discrimination on the job if you're a woman. This is something I want to talk about. The couple sentenced to 30 years and 12 years for fatal abuse. So, example of the husband and the wife, the exact same crime, but the woman gets 30 years and the guy gets 12 years. How's that? This doesn't make any sense, right? But this is Korean law. The Korean law is very unfair to women. So it's the same crime, but the guy gets 12 years and the woman gets 3 times more. Like, why? It's the same crime. They should be getting the same amount, right? But the woman gets 3 times more. So that just goes to show how unequal the laws in Korea are. And of course, Korea has the biggest gender pay gap in the OECD. Like, we all know this. This is gender inequality. And then here's what I'm talking about. I have a lot of guys, I guess Korean guys, that responded, and they don't have any sympathy for women. Like, a lot of them I think are incels. Like, they have no sympathy for women, and they're basically a misogynist, man. I mean, they're all like saying, yeah, here we go. It's also always this kind of thing. Man can be charged and sentenced guilty without any valid proof if their partner decides to sue them for raping. Yeah, maybe it happens sometimes, but not all the time. And especially not in Korea. I think it happens more in Western countries. So, yeah, it's ridiculous. It's always about the military stuff, too. Oh, here we go. They get rejected when they apply for jobs and teachings. Are there really that many guys that want to be teachers? I mean, Come on, like it seems to me like a lot of guys are complaining that women get the better jobs in teaching and stuff like that. Is a teacher really like a wanted job in Korea anyways? Like they're complaining about going to the military and then not being able to be a teacher. I mean, come on, that seems to me like cherry picking to me. And then he says, like, this is my answer was, why do you want to be a teacher when it's been proven that 98% of guys are CEO, like 98% of CEOs are guys? So obviously the highest positions are still going to be dominated by males. Teaching's not really a job that's on the high end. So you're just basically cherry picking one of the industries that happens to have a lot of women in it. And that's not right, because I can just say, well, all the highest positions are still going to be guys. And then he says, why should there be many female CEOs? Isn't it that we need competent CEOs and the ones who are just being a woman? Yes, we need competent CEOs, but you have to understand that there's obviously discrimination going on in the industry. If 98% of the CEOs are guys, maybe some girls are competent, but they're not going to be CEOs because that's not what Korea wants. Because Korea is discriminating against women because they're sexist. So, here's the one that's really kind of interesting. I'm not a believer of a gender pay gap. I'm not a believer of gender pay gap because women tend to value their social life more than men do and are not so eager for success as men do. Man, what a sexist comment, right? How do you know that women tend to value their social life more and are not so eager for success? That's a really sexist comment, isn't it? So, yeah, and then this guy, Chiho, oh man, look at all the stuff he writes. See, this guy's basically an incel. I don't want to even go to this, I blocked him, so I don't want to go back here to this answer. So I'm just going to read the stuff that I screenshotted, because I know he wants to reply to me, but I don't want to look at more of his misogynist answers and comments. Basically, this is the question here: why did Korea elect a president who is against women's rights? And then he said, suicide rates much higher for men in Korea. Maybe it is or not, but I think suicide rates are higher in Korea in general. Men suicide disproportionately more than women. I don't think that's true. And this is also not true. Korean men always face criticism about their appearance all the time more than women. That's definitely not true. Like, if you go to Korea, the high rates of plastic surgery should be like an indication of something, right? High rates of plastic surgery should be an indication of something. That's because there's more pressure on women to look good. Also, women also need to diet all the time. All the Korean girls I talk to, they always think that, oh, I want to diet, right? So there's a lot of social pressure on appearance in women in Korea. And that's not to mention the fact they had to dress up and make up and all the time. Like, Korean guys don't have to do that. LASIK surgery, how many guys you see in Korea with glasses versus women, right? I'm pretty sure like 50% of all Korean guys wear glasses. For women, it's like 10%. Like, I rarely see women wear glasses in Korea. It's just that almost all of them wear contacts or did LASIK surgery. That's just a fact. If you go to Korea, you'll see that. It's just by observation. Yeah, this is not true that men face more criticism more about appearance. It says, oh, women should serve in the military just like Israel. There's another thing about, so there's a lot of countries where the men have to serve in the military, but not the women, right? So why don't I see many of those guys complain about this? Why should women have to serve in the military? Like, this is just the one thing that they can pick out that's like gender unequal. It's like, oh man, why do men have to serve in the military but not women? But why women have to do all the rest of the stuff too? Like, women have to do everything else. And then he says, yeah, and then he's basically anti-abortion, because he says promiscuous sex rights is more important than murdering of babies, bewildering. It's interesting that when people think about abortion, if they're anti-abortion, they think they're being promiscuous. And that's not always the case, right? Like, is it always you're victim blaming? You're blaming a woman for getting accidentally pregnant and wanting an abortion. Maybe she just doesn't have the financial means or emotional capability to care for a baby all the time, right? There's many reasons why a woman will want an abortion. It's not always just because she's kind of some kind of slut that sleeps around. And I don't think of it as murdering a baby. It's we can go back talk about all day about this thing, but I don't think a fetus or embryo is considered the same thing as a baby. It's not the same thing as the baby being born. You throw it out in the trash. It's not developed yet. So, anyways, Yeah, this guy's talking about abortion isn't always related to promiscuous sex, and it's not a baby, okay? It's like an embryo. Okay, men walk around in very uncomfortable, expensive menswear. So what? Is that more uncomfortable than high heels? I wear ties all the time, right? When I was I used to dress up a lot actually when I would go to work back when I was like maybe in the early 20s. I always wore like a tie, and a suit as well, but that's not more uncomfortable than high heels actually. In mini skirts, women have to wear like in Korea they have to wear like skirts and stockings in the winter and stuff like that. Guys don't have to do that. Men literally do eyesight correction surgery more than women. That's not true. Like, he never cites any facts about this. Men are always on a diet all the time in Korea. That's not true either. I've seen way more overweight men in Korea than women. This is not like okay. It's true that Korean guys care about their appearance more than Chinese guys, but it doesn't mean that Korean guys care about their appearance more than Korean women do. That's not true. Korean women care about their appearance on an obsessive level. Like, they bring pocket mirrors with them all the time. Like, I've been in Korea. I've lived there, so I know the women care about their appearance all the time. Like, it's ridiculous to say that the men care about their appearance more than the women do. It's just not true. The women in Korea care about their appearance at an obsessive level. So more than any other girl in the world. And saying men are always on a diet all the time is ridiculous too, because some men might be, but you definitely see more overweight men in Korea than overweight women. That's just a fact. And then this stuff I don't believe as well. Women obviously has a disadvantage when they're doing chale and chesa and chale. I mean, they have to prepare all the food and everything. The guys just stand around, not doing that much. Because I've been through the ceremony before, okay? I had to wear my traditional hanbok, went through the ritual, wrote my name on a piece of paper, put it in the fire, and I stood around. I waited for all the women to make all the food and stuff like that, okay? The guys definitely don't do as much as the women in that ceremony. Wasting 2+ years doing pointless socialized trauma. Well, this is another complaint about the military stuff. Women literally don't have the majority of other burdens in Korean society. That's not true, right? That's not true. Like, women have a lot of burdens in Korean society. So the fact that they're discriminated basically when they're applying for jobs and everything. Remember how every job in Korea you have to apply your little picture to the resume? So what happens is Korean companies can discriminate you based on your appearance. So when you attach your photo to your resume, they're not going to care too much if you're a guy. If you're a guy, they're not going to care too much about your photo. But if you're a girl, they're going to care about how pretty you are in the photo. So that's pretty obvious. And he keeps talking about the life of an innocent baby. Dude, it's a fetus. It's an embryo. The world is completely crazy. No, you're completely crazy if you think that a fetus or an undeveloped embryo is the same thing as a baby. It's not a human being yet. It's a cell. You're crazy. And it says every single religion in the entire world does not endorse abortion. That's because religions are crazy. Religions are basically just big cults. Okay? Let's think about what religion is. Religion is a cult, right? They force you to believe in some crazy myth, and they tell you like, oh, this thing happened in the past, this thing happened in the past, and you have to believe it like that. And oh, God created the world in 7 days. And oh, by the way, there's this big ship that we can fit every animal, two of every animal in the world on. And oh yeah, women have one less rib than guys do, and women were born from a guy's rib. Like, are you supposed to believe this shit? I mean, it's crazy, right? It's just crazy. I mean, and then you say there's a guy that lived 2,000 years ago that came back from the dead, can walk on water, can turn water into wine, and oh yeah, when you're eating bread, you're eating his body. When you're drinking wine, you're drinking his blood. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, you think about it. That's ridiculous, man. Like, religion is actually ridiculous. So when you say religions in the world does not endorse abortion, who cares what religions think? Religions are crazy. And then it says, oh yeah, the men are wrongly accused of rape under false. How often does this happen in Korea? How often are men falsely accused of rape? I'd like to hear that number. Yes, murder is worse than rape, and we know that murder happens in Korea, and it's the guys that's always killing the girls. Yeah, how many times do the girls actually kill the guys? It's like maybe 1%, right? And then he keeps going with this. Where are the stats to all your claims? This is funny because the guy never backed up any of his claims, ever. I can back up mine actually, right? I actually have statistics. If you look online, you can there's proof basically. If you ban abortion, the rate of unsafe abortions is going to go up. That's the Here you go. You can just do a simple Google search on this, but yeah, if you ban abortion, it's just going to lead to more dangerous abortions. Basically, you're not going to stop abortion at all. So you're not actually fixing anything if you ban abortion. Like, women are still going to abort. It's just going to be illegal and therefore more dangerous. This is actually exactly the case in Korea before 2019 when they legalized abortion. So, I mean, it's crazy that it took until 2019 for Korea to legalize abortion. But anyways, before that, women were still doing abortion in Korea. It was just illegal and unsafe. And you can see a lot of, the WHO even has like a piece on this as well. So like, yeah, there's lots of facts and evidence online. You can already, yeah, it's easy to have evidence for those claims, right? So if you think that banning abortion is actually going to stop women from doing them, yeah, it's not. And yeah, they're not real human babies. So like, these people are just, yeah, to me, they're crazy. Okay, they call me crazy. They're the ones who are crazy. And let's see. All this stuff is basically stuff that I don't even want to respond with because it's stupid. Your premise ask any. So I asked them, if you ask Korean women, do guys have higher, like, are guys criticized more for their appearance than women are in Korea? Okay, because that's what this guy said. He says men are criticized for their appearance more than women, right? And I said, go ask a Korean woman. What do you think she'll say about this? And then his answer is, he says, you're premising ask any Korean woman only is already sexist polling. Why only ask the women? Because you're making an assumption about the women here. Because you're saying that Korean men face more criticism for their appearance compared to the women, right? So why not ask a woman what they think about that? I'm not trying to be sexist, but you're trying to make an assumption about the men in Korea versus the women, right? So you have to ask a woman about that. If you're going to say that, oh, Korean men face more criticism and than women do, you should ask the women about that too, right? I'm not saying ask the women only, but you should ask women about that. So I'm not trying to be sexist. So I didn't say ask women only. I said ask women about that. And then he turns it around and spins it around and said, oh no, you're trying to be sexist. You're trying to ask Korean women only or something like that. You're not, instead of actually answering the question, instead of actually, doing it. I said, ask a Korean woman, do you think that men face more criticism for their appearance than women do? Right? I want their opinion on this too. And then he just turns it around and it says, so men's opinions are not valuable and stuff like that. Stupid, right? It's not related. That's not related. Like, ask men and ask women, okay? And it says, wow, so you only see the select few people in the highest positions. I'm talking about the CEOs. 98% of Korean CEOs are guys, right? It says, what about universities and other common but contested again, goes back to the teaching thing. It's the same thing as the other Korean guy, right? They always talk about the same shit. Military, oh, we all want to be teachers, but the women took all the teaching jobs and stuff like that. Who cares about the CEO jobs? Stupid, right? So much cherry picking going on. Like, what would you rather do? Would you rather be a high-paid CEO or would you rather be a teacher, right? It's stupid, man. I mean, why are all these guys want to be teachers now? Like, they're literally cherry picking the fields that have more women in them. That's it. It's not like they actually want to be teachers. I highly doubt that all these Korean guys want to be teachers. Yes, people should be employed not based on gender. I agree with this, but that's what happens in Korea. And then Chinese men do all stuff. Korean men do all that. Plus, no, they don't. Korean men don't have to do all that. Korean men don't have to pay a dowry when they get married. And I'm pretty sure there's actually a derogatory term for Korean women called kimchi now, right? Kimchi woman. They call a woman kimchi woman when she lets the guy, she forces the guy to pay for everything, right? But that's what happens in China all the time. All the Chinese girls are kimchi girls because in China it's expected for the guys to pay for everything, whereas in Korea at least the girls will pay for something, right? I know I've dated lots of Korean girls. The girls always pay for something, but in China the girls don't pay for anything. So in China basically all the girls are kimchi girls, and the Chinese guys don't complain about that. But Korean guys, they complain about that, right? If they have to pay for everything, And then he says, oh, Korean men do all those things. No, they don't. Okay, they don't do the same thing as Chinese guys do. Like, when was the last time I saw a Korean guy carry all the bags for her, go on his knees and beg it towards the girl, while the girl's like slapping his face? Like, no, I've never seen that in Korea. It happens in China, right? I've seen Chinese men. What's that story about? The Chinese men try to jump off a building because his girlfriend wanted to go on another shopping trip or something like that. He's already carrying like, 10 bags for her and stuff like that. Yeah, I've never seen that in Korea. Okay, I've never seen a Korean guy try to kill himself because the girl does too much shopping. Happens in China. And I've never seen a man get on his knees and beg for forgiveness like Chinese guys do. It says, men do all the hard things that was imposed on women, but women don't do all the hard things that imposed on men. Yeah, right. Okay, next time, see if guys wear high heels and short skirts in the winter and stuff like that. I don't think they do that. Or get pregnant. I mean, I've seen a lot of deadbeat dads in Korea, okay? The guys don't have any responsibility. They get a woman pregnant and they just run away. And then what does the woman have to deal with? She either has to think about getting an abortion, or she has to raise a kid, which will take out her life, basically, her finances. And all because the guy didn't have any responsibility. So, I mean, that's unfair, isn't it? The guys don't have to deal with that. Since when did hidden cameras impregnate people? Like, this is another stupid thing. He's trying to change the topic. So, I mean, this is just stupid. Like, I brought up the issue of hidden cameras, right, and rape and sexual assault in Korea. And this guy tries to bring it back to abortion and says, oh, when did hidden cameras impregnate people? He's just going to try to ignore this issue. He's trying to ignore the hidden camera issue and then bring it back to his abortion thing again. He says, I was literally groped indecently multiple times, so why don't you file a complaint? That's at least a sexual assault. If it's sexual assault, you file a complaint. It says, if men are raped, it isn't a big deal. If women are sexually assaulted, okay, I agree that that's true. If a man is raped, it's not going to be taken as seriously as if a woman was raped, but it doesn't happen as often, okay? Women are definitely raped a lot more than men are raped. And this guy's just trying to sidestep the sexual assault, rape issue and hidden camera issue. And then this is another deflection. Sexual trafficking happens in Korea a lot, but then he deflects it to China. Politically correct pro-CCP, pro-Western far channels like Asian... Oh, yeah. Stupid. The fact that this guy calls politically correct pro-CCP, pro-Western far-left channels like Asian Moss, obviously this guy's some extremist far-right Korean. Like, imagine calling Asian Boss pro-CCP. Wow. Anyways, the abortion thing, I just find it funny that men who don't get pregnant have so much to say about what a woman has to do with her body, right? Women are the ones who get pregnant. Men don't get pregnant, right? So why does men feel like they have the last word and what to say about what a woman should do in that situation, right? That's, to me, is kind of dumb because men don't have to go through that. But so why does men have to unilaterally make that decision for women? Like, to me, that's just crazy. And then the women should be able to make that choice themselves because they're the ones who have to go through it, right? Men don't get pregnant, women do. So let the women make that decision, okay? Why making that decision on behalf of them? Like, that's, who are you to say that they should keep that baby if they don't want to? I mean, that's, anyways. I've seen quite a bit of these Korean incels online and misogynists. Like, it's really crazy. Like, I don't stand for feminism in Western society, like I said. Like, I think Western feminism is kind of stupid because women are already independent and they already have a lot of rights. But for Korea, women actually do need more rights. I mean, just look at this stuff. Like, you see so many examples of misogyny in Korea. So I do think that Korea does need this, but it's, yeah, I mean, look at examples of all these incels online in Korea. Holy crap. So anyways, that's just what I wanted to get off my chest, is I wanted to talk about this Korean stuff again, get off my chest, give you guys my opinions. And basically Korea just elected a new president who is probably not going to be as good for women's rights as Moon Jae-in was, but anyways, yeah, I just want to get this off my chest because it's crazy to me you have guys like this online who think this way about their own women. Like, Korean women are actually really good, I think, for to their boyfriends. Most of them are pretty loyal. You know, they do a lot for their boyfriends like that. And then the men think this way, right? And then you have a lot of foreigner girls. On top of that, you have a lot of foreigner girls who have these fantasies about Korean guys, and they go to Korea and they get drugged and raped and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I'm not saying all Korean guys are like this, but obviously there is some portion of Korean guys that I don't think are very good people. So, anyways, yeah, just want to get off my chest, and that's it. That's my thoughts on this topic, on my thoughts about Korea. Korean and China, Korean feminism, women's rights, stuff like that. So I do want to respond to this other guy here too. He said, oh, beauty standards are not serious issues for women because they don't come up in Korean politics before. That's stupid. Why would they talk about beauty standards in politics? It has nothing to do with politics. But that doesn't mean that it is an issue for women, right? You can't just say, oh, it doesn't come up in Korean politics doesn't mean it's not an issue. Yeah, beauty standards is still an issue for women. But they're not going to talk about it in politics. It's not political. Like, so stupid, right? And then he says, well, what about the cyberbullying? Like, it's not a huge deal and stuff like that. It's not strongly connected to a suicide rate. We have a lot of examples where women were actually bullied to death because of bullying, or not just women, but men too, right? In Korea, bullying is an issue in Korea. Cyberbullying. I think the most famous example is probably Sully. The K-pop singer Sully killed herself back in October 2019 because of cyberbullying, right? And of course, recently we have that Korean Twitch streamer who killed herself by being cyberbullied. I mean, this is a huge thing, and it happens, and it is strongly connected to a suicide rate because it's directly responsible for their suicides. So, yeah, these people, like, they're either being willfully ignorant, or yeah, they just, I think they don't understand the issues that are actually happening, and like they're being deliberately obtuse about it, I think.